so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the path.
Good evening, everybody. Gary here, your host on the Freedom Network. Ready to have some fun? You ready to have some fun? You ready to talk some politics? Well, let's do it. You know, we got all kinds of things going on. There's local, there's statewide, there's national, there's global, all kinds of politics going on. Constitution for Freedom is what gets you right through to the Freedom Network, right here, right now, live as we sit here in Northbridge, Massachusetts. Constitution for Freedom at gmail.com. Just email right in. Been getting a lot of emails, even more emails. You know why I think? Because it's easier to remember. I think it's just a little easier and more catchy, if you will, than the old email. But never despair. I did want to just make a quick mention, even though we changed the email, which was our homage, if you will, to Tim. Tim was the Tim or Gary at gmail.com that we used to use. And Tim was, we'll call him the founding father of the Freedom Network. If it wasn't for him, the Freedom Network as we know it wouldn't exist. So we will get something in there to pay some tribute to you, my friend Tim, even though you're leaving us and moving out of state. Probably a smart thing to do. I mean, this is like living, well, not so much. We'll talk about the Supreme Court ruling on stun guns. But anyway, I digress too much. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. First, Barbara Bush passed away, and that's sad. It's always sad when somebody dies, but Harry from Night Court, remember him? He also passed away. Passed away. Now this guy, and man, these lights are killing me on my feed because I keep the live news feed going, and it was all. He had an amazing stand-up act. Now, if you don't know much about him. I just actually, it's funny, I have a book that I read not that long ago about him. And it was amazing what he did in Vegas and the tricks that he did and the way that he kind of brought that comedy to a big stage before it was really on a big stage. The comedy of magic. And that's what he did. He did a magic act, but it was a real act. Just amazing. I'd urge you to Google it. Now, Barbara was someone that, it's amazing. You say what you want about politicians and their families and all that kind of stuff, but she was somebody that the staff at the White House, the staff at, the governor's mansion in the past, and certainly even in her somewhat middle part of her life, I guess towards the middle end, just saw her family reach incredible heights. But the staff, the media, her friends, the communities that she's lived in up in Maine, in Texas, and they all had the same thing to say about Barbara Bush, that she was a nice person and she was always kind to them. And, it's amazing. Look at like when the Obamas went into the White House, right? They fired a ton of the staff, people that had been there for decades, fired because they wanted to bring in their people. And she was kind of the opposite way of that. She may have been very involved. She may have been terrible. She may have been great. I don't know. But what I do know about her from looking, just from the outside in, she had a lot of people that respected her, admired her, and she kind of kept out of it as to what you can read about what people have and watch. That's a great thing. Is now with YouTube out there, you can literally just go to YouTube and use it like Google, hit the search and just put in what you want, and you can find the people actually saying what it is. So you don't have to rely on quotation marks in a news story or something. Emails coming in. Somebody says, are we going to talk about the debt exclusion for the school in the local town? Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I would. I mean, that's something I feel like Al Gore right now. I get how Al Gore was. I was against it, but then I was for it. Now I don't know if I'm for it or against it. I'm lost in the middle, so I could use some guidance on that. Some people could. I know it's been hot on Facebook, but wait, before we get to that, um, I wanted to note a couple of things. First, my Facebook. I don't know about yours, right? But most of us are on Facebook, and I used to get notifications every time it was somebody's birthday. Now I get them sometimes. So today I'm scrolling down through Facebook and I see a couple of people, that are saying thank you for all the birthday wishes. And it's funny because uh, one of the ones I went by was from Kelly, and I know Kelly's out there watching tonight, so I wanted to say happy birthday to you. But my Facebook is very, very inconsistent. So I wanted to say to Kelly and to everybody else, because I know there's a lot of us that talk on Facebook. Some of us are friends on Facebook. Some of us aren't friends on Facebook, but yet we meet up in common areas, I guess you would say, and we talk a lot. And I know that there's several of you out there tonight, and one other one besides Kelly. I know I missed your birthday as well. So happy birthday. Okay, happy birthday. Facebook is not fulfilling its obligation to keep me informed about the people that are there. All right, let's hit up some emails. I want to talk about an email that I got. Let me see here. Let me get to it. I got to get to the. Let's see. Hang on one second here. You know me and my. Okay, here we go. This one comes from Michael. Now, Michael, I know you're out there. You're out there frequently, and I really must say that I appreciate it. Michael is a young fella that has got more on the ball and more knowledge of the intent and what America is really all about than a lot of adults that I know out there. So first thing I'll do is I'll say good job to the parents. You obviously encourage him to have an opinion. I don't know if you share it, but you encourage him to have it. You can see it, so bravo to both of you. But this is, and Mike has sent me a lot of emails. We've had a lot of back and forth about it and some phone conversations even. But he sends me this. He says, had something I was hoping you could mention. As I'm sure you know, yesterday was one of the worst days of the year, tax day. So obviously, this is when the email came in. Anyway, since I'm 15 and I have a job, this means I have to pay taxes. But since I'm not 18, I don't get to vote where my money is being spent. I filed for a return and got nothing back. Truthfully, I think taxes are immoral and unconstitutional. For example, we didn't even have income tax until 1913. You got to love this guy. A young guy like this with command like this, to speak like this is just impressive. Anyway, my question to you is, do you think it's unfair that I have to pay taxes, but I can't drink, fight for my country, and above all, vote where my money is being spent? Thanks. And off he goes. Well, Michael, it's a great email. First of all, I would say to you that this is a prime example of taxation without representation. You can't be represented because you can't vote. So we could start there. Secondly, I would like to know who did your taxes. Now, my brother-in-law's brother, right? You always hear those stories, 7 times removed, all that stuff, is an accomplished tax professional. And I would say, from my knowledge, which is not a lot on taxes, and I would love to hook the two of you up, that you should have got some taxes back. Now, we were just talking about that in the hallway, right? I mean, he should have got some taxes back. So when you say you got nothing back, email me in if you're there. Did you literally get nothing, not one dime back? And if that's the case, who did your taxes? Because you should be eligible. I said for the earned income tax credit, but then I was corrected about the standard deduction now is what, $8,000? So the first $8,000 you make should be non-taxable, and if you make $8,100, you should be taxed on the 100. Now you're going to have to pay Social Security, and you're going to because you got to pay for that, and you better pay for that. I'm getting older, and you got to pay Social Security, and what's the other one you got to pay? Medicare. Social Security and Medicare, 2 things that, for my benefit, you need to pay. But aside from that, Mike, you should get all the other taxes, pretty much, that you spent and gave them. Now, they're going to give you a tax-free loan. This is going to, you're giving them, I mean, a tax-free loan. Tax-free. Now, if you owe them money, they make you pay them interest. But if, when they owe you money, they don't they don't give you any interest, nothing at all. Let's jump on the phone, see if anybody out there that wants to chat about anything. Good evening. You are on the Freedom Network. How are you?
Hi, Mr. Rosenberg. It's Mike.
Oh, it is Mike. It's Mike the emailer. This is great. What's up?
Hi, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to address the tax thing really quickly. So I pay about 7% to 8% in taxes. It's mainly going towards Social Security and Medicare. But my whole thing is that those programs are going to be bankrupt by the time I'm in my 30s, probably.
They could be.
So I think the government really needs to reform those programs so that when I'm older, the thousands of dollars I'm putting in now, I'll be able to benefit from.
Yes. Well, and don't forget that the intent of these programs, which are very socialistic, but the intent of these programs is that you pay for me, right? You and my son that I know that you know, right? You guys pay for us. And then when you get older, your kids are going to pay for you. The problem is it's kind of like a Ponzi scam because it's dependent upon an ever-growing population, which isn't always the case.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's very true, yeah.
Yeah, I do agree, though, with you that you shouldn't be paying any taxes because you have no representation. As a human being that lives in the United States of America, you're a legal citizen of this country, and you're paying taxes, but you have no representation because you can't vote. I thought that was an interesting part of your email.
I just sent the president a letter yesterday, and I asked him, hey, can you address the members of Congress asking you to pass a law saying if you're under 18, you don't have to pay taxes? Because my whole thing is I'd love to go fight for our country. I'd like to do so many things that I can't do because of my age, and above all, I'd love to vote. So the government says, no, you're not old enough to do that, but we're more than happy to take your money. To me, that's just extremely hypocritical. I don't like taxes. I want a flat tax. I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But I think overtaxation, in my mind, is complete robbery. I think it's against what our founding fathers wanted. I think it's against the Constitution. And truthfully, I agree with Rand Paul and Ron Paul on this when they say we need to take as little from people as possible.
You give me faith that I'll be able to grow old in a free America. Let me tell you that, man.
Thank you.
And I mean that. You're absolutely positively right. In the beginning of the country, and when everything was started, just suggesting an income tax there wouldn't have been a country if that was the case. That was why they founded the country, was to get rid of that stuff. But what really is amazing is, now, let me ask you this. I know you've read the Constitution. I know you know about the Constitution. You know about the amendments. Have you started to dive into the Federalist Papers yet?
Not yet. I actually am ordering the book soon on Amazon. There's all the Federalist Papers. I'm really looking forward to reading that. I haven't done it yet, but soon I'm going to.
Now, also, what's interesting is when you read the Federalist Papers, right, they're back and forth, and some are statements out to, and some are replies to other statements. The replies to the other statements actually come from the Anti-Federalist Papers. And the Anti-Federalist Papers, if you go back, it's amazing because people think that we had a signed Constitution in 1776, which you and I both know we didn't. And to get those signatures, they really had to kind of acquiesce and appease the Anti-Federalists that didn't want that strong central government, which is mostly where those first 10 amendments come from. You're on the brink of a fascinating story of reality because you're going to take it your own way and not let other people tell you about it. You shouldn't be paying a whole lot in taxes. You're paying what? Did you say 7%?
7-8%, yeah. So it's not too bad, but at the same time, I'm not happy about it, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be either. I'd support that. And you sent the president a letter. Is that what you said?
Yes, I sent him a letter addressing a few issues, including this one that I'm really hoping he'll look at and possibly consider.
Well, what I would suggest to you is why not take that email, forward that on over to your state reps, to your state senators, forward it over to Dave and to Ryan and, your locals, and then also forward it to your congressman and, and to your senator and both senators. And to the congressman that represents you, and make sure that you scream about that, because they don't need the president to do things. They can do things on their own, especially in the state. You could get a state, law passed. It could be
I've tried
Michael's
our
law.
congressman
Yeah.
didn't seem to care too much, so I'll definitely try the governor. I actually met him before, a really nice guy. I don't know if he remembers me, but I'll definitely send him an email about it.
I would too, and I wouldn't give up. At first they're not going to want to talk to you, but at the end of the day, you just keep on plugging, man. You give me faith in the United States. It's great to hear from you, bud. All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
Okay, bye.
And off he goes. Doesn't that, like, if you're my age, even younger, older, you're watching the Freedom Network, you're into the Constitution, you're into freedom, you hear somebody like that call and you say they're 15 years old, right? And I see on Facebook all the time people saying it's over, we've lost America. I've posted it. You know what? We haven't. We got to give kids like this a voice. Let them speak loudly, because they know what they're talking about and they're thirsting for knowledge. And excuse me, Mike isn't the only one. Mike is a representation of a lot of people. How about in Florida when they had the pro-gun rallies, and they had some even more locally as well? They weren't wall-to-wall coverage. You couldn't watch Steve Harvey, for crying out loud, because the station was breaking in about, what's that guy's name? I've already forgotten his name, thank goodness. That kid, man, oh, does he give me a, hog there. They couldn't stop putting his puss on TV. But at the end of the day, there were other rallies that went on that were pro-Second Amendment. I didn't hear anything about those. Well, I did hear about them. Obviously, I know about them. But at the end of the day, I didn't get that coverage, that enthusiasm. You could feel the enthusiasm from the anchor as they sat at a desk, much like this, and they talked to you. So excited about that these kids were out there protesting guns. And look at this big movement. It's against guns, right? But when people went to organize pro-gun rallies, you got and in Florida tonight there was a pro-gun rally and blah, 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 and here's the, 30 seconds of footage and off we go. And you can't see the agenda. You really can't see it. How can you not see it? It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. Anyway, Mass Supreme Court says that you can carry a stun gun and you can carry mace, and that it is unconstitutional, the law that was passed that banned you from carrying these things. Now, this is great news for freedom. It's great news for freedom. But let's look at the details. Let's look at some of the details. In the summary, they wrote that they have to reluctantly overturn the decision in the past. So they are reluctant to overturn the position of the past, which was of a lower court, that it was constitutional to ban these weapons. They didn't want to do this, but they did at least do their job, I guess you could say. This made the it's amazing how, I don't understand how people can't see it, but the Massachusetts legislature came out and said that they will come up with a bill that will pass muster, and they will ban these again. That's what was said, okay? I'm not quoting. I'm paraphrasing the whatever minute speech that he made. All right, a stun gun is a non-lethal way to defend yourself. Then the left tells us that we should ban guns because guns are dangerous and we should not have them. We can't be trusted with them. You hear it all the time. Now, here's a weapon that allows you to have a level playing field, but not kill anyone. So if somebody, and I won't say quite level, but, if somebody else does have a 45 on them, you're going to be in a little trouble if you have a stun gun. Unless, of course, you have the element of surprise. But, let's just keep things on a level playing field. But this weapon gives you that level playing field. And they're saying basically that this is not okay. And the court is saying it's not okay. They were peed off that they had to have this ruling, but they did have it. And I'll give them credit that they did the right thing, even though they didn't want to. I think this is very telling that these judges need to be replaced. A lot of these judges need to be replaced, because if they're reluctantly enforcing the Constitution and the right to defend yourself, which is what the Second Amendment is really all about, defend yourself, defend the country, That's what it's about. It's got nothing to do with hunting or any of that crap. It's got nothing to do with target practice. The Second Amendment is not about that. Anyway, they really want to stop you from defending yourself. And that not only is what the Second Amendment is all about, but it's what they are trying to stop you from doing. The goal is that you won't be able to defend yourself. So this will go back the other way. You mark my words, in this socialist state that we live in. It will go back the other way. The court did the right thing, even though they didn't want to. Just read the opinion. It's absolutely disgusting in the way that they should be thumping and saying the Constitution says you can't do this. This is a firearm, and because it doesn't shoot what? They don't shoot muskets anymore. They're shooting bullets now, right? But they're going to be shooting electric charges in the future, and those electric charges are still covered. They are still covered, and it amazes me that people can't make the link, and they can't see that every oppressed people share a very common thread. They are not allowed to bear arms. They are not allowed to defend themselves. And when I see this, it makes me cringe for both personal reasons and national reasons and loving my country reasons. The people of the United States have an absolute right to be armed. We have well over 300 million guns in this country. And if you think that that isn't a deterrent to attack or to invasion, if you will, in a conventional way, then you're absolutely positively out of your mind. You're out of your mind. You really are out of your mind. So what's going on? Let me talk about something a little bit more local for a minute. I had a couple of, somebody sent me a link. I'm sorry, but I can't do links when I'm live because it takes me too much time. And then they have this thing what's called dead air, which when I went to broadcasting school, that was like the sin of the century, dead air. Oh, my God. Oh, who knows? Who knows? Listen, locally, they're talking about a new school. Now, we were here on the Freedom Network. I was actually very for this, very for it. I mean, it makes sense on the surface, right? You know, we can get some matching funds so we can get more of our own money back, and we can take some of the other people's money, right? So that's what the government does, right? That's all they do is take money. So we get our share. We build a new school. We build a complex. It costs $100 million. I'm just using averages. We spend $50 million. And isn't that great? Because the state will reimburse us the other amount of money. We do it as a debt exclusion, which is fantastic because an override is a whole different ballgame. You're raising the levy limit. And I'll tell you why I'm so against overrides. Because overrides are a always compounding, continual tax increase. When you vote for an override, you don't just vote for that override. Because when they say an override, when they look at town budgets, they look at what they call the levy. And the levy is what they can spend. That's the levy limit, right? So the limit is $1. Let's say the limit's $10. We'll do this for easy math. So the limit is $10. Okay. So you want to, they can raise 2.5%. So they can raise that $2.50 without your approval. But thanks to the late and great Barbara Anderson, who is a friend of the Freedom Network, thanks to Barbara Anderson, they have to actually come and ask us if they want to, if they can raise the levy limit by anything more than 2.5%. So if they were looking for 5%, they can get their own 2%. So they're looking for a 2.5% increase. So what happens is once you pass that, that becomes part of the levy. So the next year, when they want to raise 2.28% of your taxes to live in the house that you own, when they want to do, now that money's in there. So that extra $2 and that extra $3, that extra 50 cents, whatever you want to call it, okay, whatever scale you want to use, continues forever and indefinitely until time ends. Okay? Time will end. That money will be in there and compounding continuously. So I'm not into it. So they said, you know what? They said, we're going to do it as a debt exclusion. A debt exclusion allows the town, all right, to exclude this debt from the levy limit. So it can say, well, the levy is $10, but you want $15. But we're not going to raise the levy limit to $15. What we're going to do is we're going to do an exemption, if you will. And we're going to allow the town to spend more than the levy limit, and then they will pay back that money. So you buy bonds, you get loans, whatever the case may be, depending on if you're a township or a town or a city, doesn't matter. But the big picture piece of this is all the same. So when you get that, okay, and you get that back in, that goes on, but then it ends. So it literally ends, all right? So it's over and done with. So if you borrow $50 million, you pay back $50 million. That money then the next year comes off the tax bill. Then the conversation, of course, as it always does, explodes into that we need 4,387,236 other things, and this won't be enough. This is what gets me crazy. It infuriates me because you're never going to get anything because you always want everything. So take anything, take something. But then when the numbers started to get kicked around, and you know me, I'm a math guy, and I like to think about things. I looked at the average, and the average is they're using $250,000 to $280,000 valuation of a house, which I find very low. But I know they want to use the lowest number they can because it'll give the average less, so it's better for the advertising, if you will. And it comes out to about, $700 or something like that. And I do the math, and whatever I did in the math, and I was hitting buttons on the calculator, and I come out to an 18.4% increase in property taxes to build the school. Well, that makes me pause, folks. All right, an 18.4% tax increase of any kind is an abomination of freedom, okay? But could I sign on to this? How could I sign on to this? I mean, I was for it last week. How am I against it this week? And I get the fact that if we don't fix or build a new school, we have to fix a new school. And the cost differential is literally, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and someone please, for the love of it all, I know you guys, y'all got plenty to say on Facebook. I know you're out there. Speak up. You know, you're talking about, $30 million? $32 million to fix these schools, to get them to code, if you will, because we're in trouble with it. We can't ignore that fact. There may be a day when the state comes in and says, that's it, this is locked up. You can't have this anymore. There are places in our schools you can't go because of asbestos, for Christ's sakes. So I'm on this side. So I'm seeing both sides of this thing. But I'm going to be honest with you, 18.4%. That's tough. I don't know that I'm going to be able to sit here on television and endorse an 18% plus tax increase on the average homeowner. I don't think I can do it. I'm sorry. Now, could I stop talking about it and we see what happens? Maybe. But I don't even know how I'd vote on that. I've never voted for a tax increase in my life. The first one I vote for is going to be 18%. What are you thinking? I don't know. I don't know. You don't want to talk about the logo stuff, we don't have to, but I'm going to tell you something. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough to me when you're telling me, and I mean, that's a big, big increase on a percentage basis. Now, there's another side to that story. How much does the value of your house go up? And you'd have to compare basis points. Obviously, you can't compare percentage points because your house is not going to go up 18%. But will it over what time? That's a lot. Just a lot. But I'm listening. I've always been listening. I was over here, I was over there, I was over here. I'm very conflicted in this. But I'm going to tell you something. If the vote's held today and I can't get some other kind of information, to be quite honest with you, if we're going to be screwed at 18%, let's be screwed at 12%, all right? And just fix the damn schools and let's move on. I don't understand. Who's going to support an 18.4% increase on average on taxes? I don't know who's going to. Let me know. You can send me your emails. Have at me. That's fine. Paul Ryan's going to retire. All right? Paul Ryan is going to retire, right? How old is he? Anyway, 50? Is he 50? How old is Paul Ryan? You know. You don't know. He's older than you. 48. So when can he retire? 50? 52? Well, he can retire anytime he wants, but he's got to take, When does that pension kick in? That sweet pension. Oh, if you guys could only, we'd have to air this after midnight if you could only know what they're saying. Anyway, this guy is gonna retire. He's the same guy that wanted to make you wait longer to get your retirement. So, Mike, I know you're out there, right? So you wanted to talk about taxes. I'm getting an email. I'm gonna go back to the email because I always give preferential treatment to local stuff, only because we broadcast on a local station, and I feel that it's here for local stuff first, and then we can bitch and moan about anything we want nationally. But I got to go into this one because I know it's about. It's from Richard. It says, keep in mind that it's 18% because our rate is so low. If our rate was higher, it would be much less. The cost of the school is the same whether it's built here in Upton. Well, I'd agree that it's the same, I guess, as if it's built here or if it's built in Upton. But, I mean, Richard, come on, do better. You're better than that. I mean, obviously, if the tax rate was higher in town, and I get what you're getting at. I get what you're getting at, man, that we haven't raised taxes over time to keep up with the times, to keep this. I get it, but I also feel that so many people live in this town because it's a low tax town. If you're watching from outside the area, we live in the Blackstone Valley. We are the lowest tax rate in the Blackstone Valley. But just remember something. If your tax rate is $1, okay, if it's $1 and you don't pay that $1, the government's going to come and take your property. So what the hell do you own anyway? That's what I always say. What do you own? Everybody's out there. They sold us. It's the American dream. You must own your home. And then we must tax you on it if you live in the great state of Massachusetts. Anyway, I think that's a big increase. I don't want to pay for the sins of them, not raising taxes. It's like a weird discussion for me to have. I don't know that I can have the discussion and not laugh about it because we're talking about ways to increase what we pay in taxes. And this is the low tax town in the whole Blackstone Valley, right? We are the lowest tax town. That's a source of pride. Now, a lot of homes are sold in Northbridge, I'm sure, every year. What percent of those homes, year over year over year over year, people buy here because the taxes are low? Where does that factor in? And when that factors in, well, I mean, I think that's why a lot of people live here, is for the low taxes. I don't know. Let's jump on the phone and see what somebody from the outside world has to say. Good evening. You're on the Freedom Network.
Hey, good evening, Gary.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, excellent show tonight. I just wanted to give you a little bit talk back on the school situation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, here's my thoughts on the new school. Okay, it's going to be about roughly $52 to $53 million to renovate both the NAS and the Bomber School.
To renovate?
To renovate or to correct all the issues.
Is it that high?
Yeah, that's what my understanding is.
All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what to bring it up to all the standards of the MSBA, and it's about 57 or 58 million. It could be a little bit less for the new school, but that's with a 38 or 39 million dollar reimbursement. So, you got to kind of look at things, but I agree there's things that the town can do, okay? Instead of a 20-year note, why not look at a 30-year or a 35-year note, bringing that cost down to roughly $499 a year or $450 a year?
Well, it's true, but it's not really bringing the cost down. It's just prolonging the same cost. I mean, that's all, and I get it, and I do get it, but I just can't get my head around 18%. So you're telling me that it's going to be 16.5% to fix what we got or 18% to build new. Either way, I'm screwed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, this is where we have to reach out to our local body of government and ask them to come up with either offsets or other innovative ways to also help fund the school. Now, I know, maybe the state can throw some weren't like a lot of things were deferred for many years, and that I'm sure you remember that old advertisement, "Pay me now or pay me later," and the bill is coming due.
Sure.
But the biggest, another interesting point about this is that the town and the MSBA has acknowledged all the deficiencies with the school, and you listed the asbestos. If nothing is done, that's a significant liability on the town, and who knows what could come out of that. And if there's a class action lawsuit, could the town end up paying more in a class action lawsuit if it was to fix the schools? So it's kind of a real unique situation here where I think our town government has to, number one, come up with other innovative ways or offsets to help pay for it. And I mentioned some when you were on the 3 on 11 show. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, too, is to look at potentially a 30 or 35-year note to bring that cost down a year. And then hopefully, maybe, because each year in August, the town has what they call end-of-the-year transfers of money that's not spent in encumbered accounts.
Sure.
And that money can be potentially used to go on to the principal of that loan, and maybe also to help bring the cost of school down with that. But these are just some thoughts. But
sure.
And the other thing, too, is when I was at the FinCom meeting, I asked the town manager, could you put a survey on the town website? So there may be good, solid citizens out there that may have $1 million suggestion on how the town could
sure.
save money or create additional revenue to help offset the cost. And I really didn't get a clear answer from him on why or if they would put a survey on the town website so citizens could come in and offer their thoughts. But I think the town is in a unique situation. Do you spend $54 million to renovate or $58 million to buy new?
Well, that was what I was saying in the beginning. It seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, obviously, right. I guess we're going to get talked to you one way or the other, I guess. But whatever it is, hey, I appreciate your call and all your opinions as always, man.
Hey, all right. Hey, stay safe and stay well, Gary.
You too, bud. Okay. All right. Well, that's an opinion. I don't know. To me, a school project, right? You want to do a debt exclusion for a school project, you should be able to I would say anybody touching the school system, it's an 18-year plan, right? You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's about 18 years or so, 12 years, but I would say, to have that overlap. I don't know. Richard emails me, I agree that I would never support an 18.4% tax increase. All right. But then you go on and say, but I'm going to stop there. I haven't read the whole thing. So why are you? Right? So why are you? All right. Let me find out why. But the fact is the school cost $100 million. In order to raise our share of $60 million approximately, we need to increase 18%. If you lived in Upton, it would be at 10%. Can't have it both ways. I understand that. And if I lived in I don't know, Cambridge, it would probably be 6%. I don't know. But I know I live in Northbridge, and I know that people live in Northbridge that pay a certain amount of taxes, and they're going to look at an 18.4% increase. I mean, we're already talking 18%. We've already dropped the 0.4, right? It's just going to keep going down, and soon someone's going to tell me it's a cup of coffee. I know it's coming. I know you're going to tell me that. But people that are living on a fixed income, you can say to them, hey, look, you're going to have to come up with, X amount, or you're going to have to, you can say that. But it's tough when you're in their shoes and they can't come up with that money. They don't have the money. So that's a small percentage, I understand. But, never forget one thing. A society or a community is judged by the way it takes care of the people that cannot take care of themselves. So if you can't take care of yourself, and I'm talking legitimately, not the fraud and all the crap, right? If you can't take care of yourself, then we do need to take care of you. And if you're living in a house and you're going to have to say, I'm not going to be able to get my prescription filled because I have to get them, then you know what? Then come up with something for that too. Because I'm just, you know what it is? I'm sick and tired of seeing it's just a, if it would have been. it's reality, though. Let's jump into reality. Joe Sixpack makes, $1,500 a month. That's what he's got coming in. He's on a fixed income. He's living in his house. He's paying his bills. He's doing his thing. And you say, I need 18% more. How the hell does he get 18% more? And this is what gets me. And 18%. We founded this country on a 3 cent or 3% tax. 18? See, I get crazy because it makes me wild to think that we would have. Now, the excuse is, and I get it, and I love you. Richard, I love you. You know I love you. I'm not trying to be combative. I'm losing it. I was in it. I was all in it. I was ready for it. I mean, Jim was sitting here next to me. We were talking about it. I think I even had him in it. And he was the guy they accused of stealing the signs, remember? What a bunch of morons that did that. Anyway, I was in it. But I'm floating out of it because I sat down with a calculator and I said, 18%? How the hell can you raise anybody's taxes 18%? How do you do it? But I get on the other side that we're gonna get screwed either way, I guess. So we're in that situation in our town. Imagine that in your town, if you were in that situation, that you were facing an 18% increase, and if you didn't, you'd probably have to take a 12%. Because what's going to happen? I will say, what's going to happen? The state's going to come in and say you can't do it anymore. You got to fix it, and it's going to force our hand. That's what's going to happen. So we're going to spend tens of millions of dollars on the schools. It's just a matter of where are you going to spend it, how are you going to spend it. And I'm a guy about principle. When it comes to politics, principle is everything. And 18% is hard for me to digest. I guess maybe if I chew on it for a while, it might. But I don't know if I can ever swallow it, man. Anyway, here comes Michael. Hey, buddy, great show. Like you, I don't like paying more in taxes. But the longer we wait to address the school situation, the higher the tax increase will be. With the increase, I believe we will still be one of the lowest tax rates in the area. We need to think long term. Better schools attract more residents, more businesses, and improve our long-term situation. Just a thought again, great show. Mike, thank you. Mike Sr. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. I can't. I get so mad, and I love some of these people. I know them, and I love you guys. I do. But you're talking about 18.4%. If I came to you and said, we're going to raise state taxes by 18.4%, because for the past 50 years, we haven't raised taxes enough, and now I feel we need to raise them more, would you not laugh at me? I mean, they're laughing in there. Everybody's laughing. I don't know. But I will say that we are a low-tax town, and I will say that I think that a good majority of people that have moved here in the past, 10, 15, 20 years, have probably taken the tax situation into consideration. You may not want to admit it publicly. I get it. But come on, if you were moving, I didn't know Northbridge, Mass. Existed in my life, and I grew up in Stoughton. I'm not that far away. Let's say that you're an implant from somewhere else, and you came here from somewhere else. What do you look at, right? And then they talk about the schools, and I'm going to tell you something. All right, my son doesn't go to Northbridge Public Schools at this time. But I will tell you something. He went to Northbridge Public Schools from, when he was get in there in kindergarten, right? All the way through the 8th grade. And this is a smart kid, all right? And Michael that emailed us at the beginning of the show, smart kid. Coming out of what? Northbridge schools. They're not bad schools. We have incredible teachers that are, when I say incredible, that are absolutely fantastic. Yeah, there's always going to be a few bad apples. I get it, right? But that's neither here nor there. That's everywhere. But we have a great school system, all right? We may not always agree all the time. You get up in the administration, I hear you. Look, I'm not going to throw any bones that way because I've heard too many stories. But the reality is the teacher in the classroom is doing a good job in educating. People have been talking about all the frills and that kind of stuff. Have we done any studies? I was on Facebook the other day talking about, have we called a salvage company to come in and salvor out what we have in the old buildings? And I don't think that we have. That was the indication that I got. Now, while I think it's great that we were able to express and talk about that, why am I the guy thinking about it, right? I'm not the guy that's either in the school committee, in the town government, in the planning boards, on the finances committee. Why haven't we hired one yet? Why doesn't someone at least come in and walk through so that we can see what we can get back? What I'm talking about is the desks, the chairs, the televisions that are in there, all the stuff, the Bunsen burners that are in there, all right? You realize that all that does have a value, right? All of it has a value. And there are companies out there that will buy that. Yeah, they're going to pay you pennies on the dollar for what you spent. But what we're going to do is knock these buildings down, right? And we're going to demolish them and we're going to destroy all this crap, throw it in a dumpster, and off it goes. And someone will still make money off the scrap, but it won't be Northbridge. Why do we have to do stuff so stupid all the time? And I don't mean stupid because people aren't thinking about it. I mean that we get into our head and say, gee, we just have such a low tax rate. If we could only raise it, then this is where we'd be. And I'm just saying 18% is a really big increase. You know, emails are flying in now. You guys are great. You know, it really just, it's just too much. I don't know. I feel like as though I'm deciding as I'm talking about it tonight, because now as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking about it. I'm not going to put Gary Rosenberg's name on an 18.4% tax increase. I'm not going to do it. Like I said, the best I'm going to get to is maybe I look the other way and we see what happens. Maybe I don't hop on it every Wednesday night. But my God, I mean, this is a big tax increase to ask of the people. I guess we are kind of screwed either way. Obviously, we are, and we know that. All of us sane people out here know that. We're going to have to do something because you're right. The Mike's right. I mean, you know, the state's going to come in and force our hand. That's what's going to happen. Our hand's going to get forced, and we're going to have to do it. And then we'll be with, you know, old instead of new. And I get it. It's like but it's almost like the whole thing sounds to me like remember the old, what was that? Kevin White. Remember Kevin White used to come out and he used to say in Boston, he used to say, you know, we're going to have to raise taxes, you know, 7%. And everybody would lose their mind. But then, about a week later, he'd come out and he'd say, you know what, we only have to raise taxes 4%. And everyone would hail to the chief, right? Because he just saved them all this money when in the beginning all he wanted was 4% anyway. I don't know. But our long-term situation, Mike, doesn't look good when you look at all the things that we need. But then again, why do we need them? What do we need them for? Like I've said, I mean, I have a lot of smart guys, a lot of smart girls coming out of Northbridge Public Schools from some great teachers. Do we need all that much more? Yeah. So I got some not for air emails coming in now, so I will not read those, but I will get back to them. Thank you, though. I read that there. Thanks, man. I don't have the time. I really don't. But, you know, it is. The little stuff like that we have to look at is what we have to make sure that our town government is looking at. I don't care if we can get $1 a chair, all right? 87 cents a chair. Sell every chair that's in that school, both schools, and you're going to make money off of it. And then I want that money taken, and I want to put toward that bond that we buy to bring that 18% down. When I hear that we haven't even done that, it makes me say, how deep have we dug? We went to another town and said, what did you do? And then are we doing the same thing? I mean, we're Northbridge, right? Where's the pride? Where's we can do it better than anybody else, and we can do it cheaper than anybody else. Maybe you come in at 9, 10%. I'm freaking out at 9, 10%. I can't believe I'm entertaining 18.4%. I'm not going to forget that 0.4 because everybody likes to do that. They like to make it, it's a cup of coffee. It's 18.4%, but it's an 18%. No, it's 18.4. And it's going to continue for now. People are, like Barry was saying, what are we going to do this now for 30 years, 35 years? How many generations of kids go through the school? Yeah, right. Let's just do it indefinitely. Because that's a plan forever. 20%, 25%. We can have fire departments. We can have all, I don't know. I know I waver on this stuff because I know that we're in a town that does hurt comparatively for tax dollars. But when I look at it, I look at my son, I look at his friends, I look at guys like Michael that have come out of Northbridge schools. We got smart stuff was going to NASA. I mean, this is not an incompetent, you know, they need $100 million to make it a good school. But then, like Barry says, and I need some numbers. Are we really talking within $7 or $8 million? So am I supposed to believe, and I will if it's true, that the only difference between the brand new complex school for both schools to replace them both and to fix up the schools is $8 million. That's the difference? $8 million to the taxpayer? I don't know, man. It sounds far-fetched to me. I'm sorry, but it sounds far-fetched to me. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, then let me know. I see those emails coming in. There's a whole host of do not reads. Yeah, I want to ask you a question, though. Some of you guys, when you say do not read, it's a conversation between the two of us, which I'm happy to have, but no change can ever come from something like that. You know, it's funny. I went to a place on Facebook where it was an anonymous site. And I used to get a kick out of some of the posts. And I say, why am I part of this group? Why am I part of Anonymous, whatever the thing was, right? And it wasn't that I was part of the group, obviously, but, you know, and it was that, you know, that anti-government anarchist. Look, I'm friends with Hillary Clinton, all right, on Facebook. I want to see all the info from all sides. But it bothers me that those folks, much like that Antifa, right, that wrap their heads up, they put masks on and stuff like that. Why? I'm sitting right here, right? I speak my mind. Why can't you speak your mind and be heard as an American and let people know who you are? So I left the group because I just was sick of it. People running around in masks, trying to call themselves patriots. Was George Washington running around in a mask? Did James Madison put a mask on? Give me a break. Stand up, be heard, do your thing. I don't know. Paul Ryan's going to join a great, you know, bunch of many. He's going to be there in government for the rest of his life, just feeding off of you folks. There is a government class. It clearly exists. How can you not think that it exists? How can you not see that it exists? You're not invited to join this club. The party system is designed to do nothing more than control you. That's all it's designed to do, just control you. All right, they're basically the same, the Republicans, the Democrats. Let me put it to you this way. Wars are going to rage on. The Fed will not be audited. All right, our food supply will remain disgusting. Healthcare will be a complete and utter mess. You will pay close to half of what you make to a government entity. Yes, Mike. Yes, Michael. Half when you get older. You're at 7% now. Trust me, they'll work you up to half of what you make will go some way, shape, or form to a government entity. It's not all income taxes. We'll fight endless wars over and over. Illegals are going to continue to pour into the country. They are. Come on. And they're going to continue to stay here while people going through a legal process continue to wait. The best argument against illegal immigration comes from legal immigrants. Immigration's a great thing for America. It's always proven to be a winner when it's done legally. We'll remain in massive debt. I could go on, but, you know, I'm looking at this list here, but these big brick things are going to continue. The other stuff is all just little nothing stuff. They'll keep you arguing about that, about abortion, about, you know, should you have pot shops in town? Should you have this? Should you, you know, allow tattoo shop? They're going to keep you fighting about all that little stuff. But all the other stuff is going to remain just the same. Think about it. Please, will you please think about it? What has changed in the past 30 years in politics? In the past 30 years in politics of the issues I just talked about, that I just listed above, that I can certainly scroll up, I won't list them all, but wars, monetary system, food supply, health care, taxes, endless wars is all they are, illegal immigration, massive debt. What's changed? What's changed? Yeah, I'll tell you what's changed. Now Northbridge could be an 18.4% increase in taxes. I mean, I think that you should, you know what you should do? You should get 18.4 behind here somehow. You could get that up there. I know you could. 3 on 11 is going to be coming up in just a few minutes. There'll be about a 5-minute pause in between the shows, but you guys stay right tuned. You'll see some good information in between the shows. Then they will take over the studio because it's just simply the warm-up here. Just simply the warm-up for the Big Bang. I want to just leave you with a couple of words. I'm very happy that we have so many people named Mike that watch the show. No, I'm very happy that young Mike is out there and he's doing what he's doing. And Mike, when you read those Federalist Papers, I want to hear what you have to say about them. I really do, because I think they're going to blow your mind. I think you're going to read those, keep the Constitution with you, read those, and refer back and forth. And let me tell you, your mind is going to be blown. Your mind's going to be blown. You're going to get what they meant. And when you get it, we're going to have some amazing conversations. The other thing I want to leave you with is really simple. Freedom is fragile. We must protect it. Never stop protecting it. Don't look the other way. Don't turn the other cheek. Just don't do it. Oh, look at this. And here comes one last. No name, but I guess I can read it. People can see how 18% will hurt the town residents. The school district is bad now. The state probably will step in anyways. A new school will not change the district or bring more people in. 18.4. Look it. There you go. Right? I would rather move to a town with an 18% and have an excellent school district, new police, fire, good roads. Hey, I don't begrudge you, nor would I ever mention your name when you said not to, and I don't begrudge you. I want to have this conversation, but I'm unfortunately out of time. So how about next week we can have that conversation? I respect that you emailed and I appreciate you did. Freedom, it ain't free. Keep it free. I'll see you next week.
Oh, say